They say kindness costs nothing, but for Chiara it cost everything, or so she thought. On a quiet night in Rome, Italy, a single mother broke the rules to serve a late customer wearing a simple cap. She had no idea the man was Pope Leo, nor that she was being watched. She didn't know that getting fired the next morning would become the best thing that ever happened to her. All this took place a week before the death of Pope Francis. Sometimes the biggest dreams come true when you're not even looking for them. Sometimes being fired isn't the end of your story. It's just the beginning. That's what happened when a waitress chose kindness over rules, and how that choice changed not only her life, but an entire community. Chiara's feet ached as she refilled the sugar containers at Café do Prego. The clock on the wall showed 11:45 p.m., just 15 minutes before closing. Her muscles begged for rest after 10 hours running between tables, but she couldn't stop, not when her daughter Destiny was counting on her. "Mom, please, can I go to summer camp?" Destiny had asked that morning, her big brown eyes shining with hope. The memory of her 8-year-old daughter's hopeful face gave Chiara the energy to keep going. The camp cost €500. That meant 2 more weeks of double shifts, but seeing Destiny light up when talking about it made it all worthwhile. The doorbell rang, pulling Chiara from her thoughts. She turned to warn the customer the cafe was about to close, but words stuck in her throat. An elderly man, wearing a cap and dark jacket, stood at the entrance. His steps were slow but steady, and there was something in his tired eyes that made Chiara hesitate. Brad, her manager, had strict rules about serving customers after 11:30 p.m. The kitchen closed early, no exceptions. But something in the man's weary gaze made Chiara pause. He seemed to have had a long day, too. "Please, come in," she said, grabbing a menu. "Try to order quickly, the kitchen will close soon." The man smiled, a gentle warmth lighting his eyes. "Thank you. I just need a quiet place to eat and think." Chiara led him to a booth in the corner, away from the windows. He kept his head low, trying not to be noticed. Probably an important visitor, she thought. Rome saw many important people, especially in difficult times. "What would you like to order?" she asked, taking out her notepad. "Black coffee," he said. "And what do you recommend for dinner?" "Our pork chops with polenta are famous," Chiara said. "My daughter says they're the best in Rome, though I might be biased since I make them." The man laughed, a familiar, comforting sound Chiara couldn't place. "Do you have children?" he asked. "Just one, Destiny. She's 8 and very smart." Chiara smiled proudly. "She's full of dreams." "Good dreams to have," he said. The cap shifted slightly as he nodded, and under the fluorescent light, Chiara's heart skipped. It was Pope Leo, but she kept a neutral expression, pretending not to notice. "I'll place your order," she said calmly, turning toward the kitchen. Through the counter window she saw Jerry, the cook, preparing to clean up. "Special customer," Jerry murmured, but lit the grill for the pork chops. In all his years at the cafe, he'd never refused a customer Chiara stood up for. While the food cooked, Chiara wiped tables and counted tips. She'd made €83 that night, not counting the late customer, money going straight to Destiny's camp, along with extra tips from her morning shift at the coffee shop across town. The man sat silently, watching the empty street through the window while sipping his coffee. Despite his size, he had a calm presence that reassured Chiara. She'd served many famous visitors, some of whom had been real jerks, but this one felt different. When the food arrived, she brought it to the table with extra napkins and a bottle of hot sauce. "Here you go, the best pork chops with polenta in Rome." "Perfect, thank you," he read her name tag. "Chiara, you didn't have to serve me so late. I know it's past closing, but everyone deserves a good meal and a moment of peace, no matter the hour. My mother taught me that." He nodded thoughtfully. "Your mother taught you well, and your daughter's lucky to have you." "It's me who's lucky," Chiara said, truly meaning it. "Destiny gives me strength on nights like this. Speaking of which, I better finish cleaning." While working, Chiara discreetly glanced at the security camera in the corner of Café do Prego. She knew that Brad, the manager, reviewed the footage every morning, but she was sure that even if he noticed the late hour, he wouldn't regret that she had helped a man who seemed in need. Pope Leo ate in silence, making small, approving sounds that made Chiara smile without realizing she was in the presence of someone so special. When he finished, he left several notes on the table. 5 100-euro bills, a tip far exceeding the value of the meal, enough to cover her daughter Destiny's summer camp. Chiara closed the cafe at midnight, feeling the weight of exhaustion, but also the lightness of having done what she felt was right. Breaking rules could be costly, but that night, it felt worth it. Little did she know her choice hadn't gone unnoticed. Just 1 week before Pope Francis's death, that simple decision was about to change her life forever. Outside, a black SUV disappeared into the Roman night, while Pope Leo smiled, already planning his next steps. The next morning, Brad confronted Chiara with a voice full of disapproval. She tried to justify her actions, speaking of the man's hunger and fatigue, the simple kindness she offered. But Brad was unmoved. She opened the kitchen after hours, broke the rules, and for that, she was fired. 8 years of work ended in an instant, her future uncertain, and her daughter's summer dream threatened by the weight of dismissal. Chiara's hands trembled as she handed over her badge, until an unexpected call changed the course of that day. On the other end, a formal voice summoned her to an urgent meeting at the Vatican, in the name of Pope Leo. Surprised and confused, she accepted, unaware that it was just the beginning. On the way there, her heart tightened, thinking of her daughter and the kindness of the stranger from the night before. He had tested her, and now it was her turn to be tested. At the Vatican, among marble and stained glass filtering a near-sacred light, Chiara felt small in her simple uniform, but determined. The reception called her to the private wing, where an elegant woman, Sister Patricia, awaited to accompany her to Pope Leo. There, in that moment, an unexpected chapter began, born from a simple act of kindness on an ordinary Roman night. Chiara was received politely and offered water and coffee, though her mind was far from comfort. Sitting in a room overlooking the Vatican gardens, she felt the weight of bills and her daughter's dreams, while a loving message from Destiny brought tears and hope. The door opened and he entered, Pope Leo, unceremonious, with a firm and welcoming gaze that saw beyond appearances. Without preamble, he confessed he knew who she was since the night before, when she helped him as a common person, not as a pontiff. Sitting together, he revealed that he had been observing Chiara for weeks, especially her work in the parish's soup kitchen. He was looking for someone to lead a new pastoral program for vulnerable youth, someone driven by true compassion and the courage to act even when it meant sacrifice, just like her. She, who had just lost her job for breaking rules to help, heard that her kindness had not gone unnoticed. Without academic degrees, merely a volunteer, she felt the weight of responsibility and disbelief. But he assured her that the church needed fewer diplomas and more hearts that knew pain and chose love. He handed her an envelope with her appointment as Community Outreach Coordinator for the Youth of Hope project, along with financial support far beyond what she earned before. An invitation to turn her own struggle into a mission. Before she left, Pope Leo pointed to Rome at her feet, reminding her that her mission was to give voice and support to those living the reality of the streets, hunger, and hope. Receiving the official documents, Chiara felt the weight of the future ahead, a future that could perhaps rescue not only her daughter's dream, but also the dignity she had never lost. Pope Leo confirmed the offer included medical assistance, educational support for her daughter, and full access to the Vatican's educational and cultural spaces. Chiara immediately thought of Lucia, not only field trips but books, mentoring, a real hope for the future. He approached her, rested a hand on her shoulder, and spoke gently about the historic moment. The mission emerged just before Pope Francis's departure, a gesture he believed his predecessor would approve of, as new seeds of compassion blossomed in Rome. For years, Chiara had only felt weight and uncertainty, but in that moment, faith and hope walked together inside her. She asked in disbelief why she had been chosen. Pope Leo explained that the night wasn't a coincidence. He discreetly observed how people behaved when they thought no one was watching, and she was the only one who showed kindness without knowing who he was. Though the Curia wanted someone with a doctorate and experience, he sought a real person who practiced charity daily, regardless of titles, just like Chiara, who risked her job to feed the homeless, a gesture that had cost her dearly, but brought her to this moment. He gave her the envelope with the official appointment and recommended she think it over the weekend. The job would start Monday if she accepted. The folder in her hands felt heavy, not for the paper, but for the possibilities it held. On the way, routine awaited. picking up Julia from school, explaining the dismissal. Then the phone rang. It was the restaurant manager, now in an unexpected situation. A Vatican representative wanted to acquire the location to turn it into a shelter, but they wanted to speak with Chiara. She firmly declined the offer to return to her old job, sensing a greater path ahead. While reading the documents, Chiara realized it wasn't just about coordinating social projects, it was about creating hope for children like Julia, for so many who needed someone to believe in them. A joyful message from her daughter arrived, full of dreams, and Chiara smiled, ready to share her own news. On the way to school, ideas bloomed, programs for single mothers, scholarships, art and citizenship workshops. It all started because she chose kindness over rules, because she saw a hungry person, not a customer. When she arrived, the Roman sun bathed the city in gold, and Julia, among the excited children, called for her, surprised to see her mother without the uniform. Chiara took a deep breath, ready to share her story. But first, she wanted to hear all about her daughter's day. As they drove, Julia excitedly talked about a new dribble she had learned and how the teacher praised her talent. Chiara listened attentively, but her mind was already spinning with the opportunities the new role offered: free access to educational programs, qualified coaches, concrete paths to a better future. They stopped at their favorite park, under the old elm where Julia had learned to kick a ball. There, Chiara opened the folder and, smiling, began to tell what had happened. It had all started the night before at the restaurant. Julia's eyes widened with each detail. Pope Leo, the most respected spiritual leader, wanted her mother to work for him, managing social programs for children in the community, like camps and workshops year-round. Julia beamed at the idea of joining those activities. Chiara flipped through colorful photos of smiling, learning children, amazed. It was a dream come true. But there was a hard truth. She had lost her job at the restaurant for helping someone in need, breaking rules out of compassion. Julia understood, comparing her mother's act to the simple gesture of sharing her lunch at school. It was for that true kindness that he had chosen her. The new job was bigger than anything she had ever done. It was about transforming lives, not just serving meals. She feared not being good enough, but soon remembered the advice she always gave her daughter. You'll never know what you can do until you try. Pope Leo smiled, moved, surprised by the wisdom the little one already showed. Together they sat to watch the sunset that painted Rome in shades of pink and orange. In the square, teenagers played soccer, their laughter carried by the wind, representing the audience the programs could reach. Children who, like Julia's friend's sister, had talent but lacked money for training. His phone buzzed with a message from an assistant. The council would meet the next day and expected a decision. Looking at his daughter and at those children, Pope Leo knew what he had to do. With Julia's help, he wrote the reply. He would accept the position with honor, grateful they had seen something in him he hadn't seen in himself. Hope had become commitment, a new beginning for him, for Chiara, for many lives. The reply came almost instantly. Welcome to the team. She needed to be at the foundation by 9 a.m. the next day and bring her daughter. There was someone special for her to meet. Chiara, full of excitement, wanted to know who it was, but Pope Leo just smiled, remembering the Foundation Council's words. He felt that this encounter was just the beginning of something greater. As they walked back to the car, a cool night breeze rustled the trees, the same one that had passed through Jerry's diner the night before, when a man in a discreet cap changed their lives forever. Pope Leo, gripping the wheel firmly, felt his heart swell with pride and emotion. We're in this together, he thought, sharing that silent feeling with Chiara. Back at the office, still immersed in work, Pope Leo had on his desk a stack of files with information about families in Rome, children in need of opportunities, lives awaiting transformation. On top, a photo of Chiara serving food at the shelter last Christmas, tired but smiling, and a letter from little Tomas's mother, thanking her for the support she gave during hard times. He smiled and wrote one last note in the file. Sometimes the biggest dreams come true when you help others achieve theirs. The next morning, Chiara stared at the wardrobe in panic. No outfit seemed right for the position she was about to take. After trying on several options, she chose the navy blue dress her mother had given her last Christmas, simple but full of meaning. As she got ready, she heard her daughter call from the living room, already dressed in her best outfit and new sandals, bought with the money she earned doing extra chores. On the way, Kiara repeated to herself, "You can do this." Upon arriving at the Hornets Foundation, they were warmly welcomed. The guard handed them badges, and Patricia, on the 43rd floor, greeted them kindly. Little Kiara, beaming, asked about the special person she was going to meet. Patricia replied with a mysterious smile, offering her a place to play while her mother attended the meeting. In the conference room, Pope Leo stood at the head of the table and rose to greet her. He introduced Kiara as the new director of community outreach, inviting her to sit by his side. Around the table were familiar faces, mothers, coaches, and neighbors Kiara had helped. Pope Leo explained they had been following her work closely, consulting the community about her. Mrs. Johnson spoke firmly, recalling how Kiara stayed late to listen to her stories and found extra food for the shelter, even off the clock. Those words confirmed Kiara wasn't there by chance. Her dedication was already known and valued. The journey she was beginning promised to change not only her life, but many others. Tomas's mother highlighted how Kiara helped fill out job applications after hours, while Coach Johnson confirmed she volunteered to clean up after soccer games, even without playing. These simple acts, invisible to many, brought tears to Kiara's eyes. She never imagined anyone was paying attention. Pope Leo emphasized that this was exactly the ideal profile for the position, someone who does good without seeking recognition, showing true character. He handed her the official contract, with a salary that covered the move to a better apartment, a reliable car, immediate health coverage, a full scholarship for her daughter's college, and a bonus to help start her new life. Stunned, Kiara could barely speak until Mrs. Johnson encouraged her to accept, announcing the presence of her new assistant coach, Giovanna Bianchi, legend of Italian women's football, who had been training Kiara's daughter since they arrived. As she signed the contract, her hands trembled, remembering every night at the shelter, every silent gesture that once felt insignificant but had now brought her here. Pope Leo announced that her first task would be to accompany her daughter to training with Giovanna, emphasizing that everything starts when someone believes in you, and that now it was Kiara's turn to believe in herself. As they walked to the elevator, the voice and sound of the ball bouncing filled the air, and Kiara saw her daughter Destiny shine in the church courtyard, happy and full of hope. She thought of the countless children still needing that chance, of the dreams about to come true, and felt a good kind of nervousness to begin. A test still lay ahead, a challenge to prove she was worthy of the opportunity, but in that moment she allowed herself to simply live the present, watching her daughter's dreams bloom in a sacred space, surrounded by people who finally saw her heart, even when no one seemed to be looking. 3 months had passed in the blink of an eye since she had taken her position at the Pontifical Youth Foundation in Rome. Kiara adapted with the same dedication she once had, caring for the poor in the parish. Now, instead of distributing meals, she was distributing hope, helping children find a dignified path, far from neglect. Every morning, as she entered her modest office in the Vatican, overlooking the dome of the Basilica, she pinched herself to make sure it wasn't a dream, but the new reality she was building with her heart. The office walls were covered with thank you letters from families and photos of smiling children now engaged in new routines and studies. Destiny flourished along with all of it. Music and dance classes with Kiara transformed how she expressed herself, bringing her confidence and a lightness that charmed everyone around. More than that, Destiny began helping younger children at the foundation, teaching the first steps she was learning, imitating what her mother had once taught her. Everyone deserves a chance. On an intense day, Kiara was reviewing applications for the new scholarship program, which would support only 20 children out of more than 200 applicants. Stories of mothers working double shifts, families devastated by floods, and little ones with patched shoes filled her mind. The weight of the choice suffocated her. Suddenly, an email with the subject "Urgent Review of Financial Audit" froze her stomach. When she opened it, she saw numbers that didn't add up, large sums disappearing and reappearing without explanation. It was the kind of problem that could shut down programs sustaining so many lives. Her hands trembled, her small office seemed to shrink, and the images of children, Destiny, Tommaso, so many others, flooded her mind. With a heavy heart, she knew she had to act, even fearing the consequences. She picked up the phone and called Pope Leo, who summoned her to his Vatican office. The walk felt endless, and the laughter of children in the gardens only heightened the gravity of the moment. Standing before him, Chiara presented the irregularities with a firm voice, even as her heart pounded. She warned that the large, undocumented transactions threatened everything. Pope Leo, serious, listened intently until a broad smile broke across his face. Chiara was confused. Weren't there missing funds? The answer came next, and with it, the certainty that truth and honesty would be the foundation for giving those children and destiny not just a chance, but a legitimate and dignified future. Pope Leo shook his head, revealing that the altered figures had been a test, Chiara's final test. They needed to know whether she would uphold the foundation's integrity, even at the risk of losing everything. The relief was so overwhelming she had to sit down. He explained that integrity was just as essential as the impact of their work. Then he pulled a new contract from the drawer, offering her the position of executive director. The current director was retiring, and Chiara had already been prepared for the role, having shown compassion, ethics, and integrity. Through the window, Chiara saw Destiny teaching a younger girl her first steps in faith and hope. Like mother and daughter, they were helping others pursue their dreams and callings. She accepted the offer, but asked to ensure all children had a chance, not just the top ones, even if it meant dividing scholarships. Pope Leo smiled, reaffirming that this made her perfect for the role. That night, sitting in the Vatican gardens, Chiara watched Destiny practicing with other children. Her official executive director contract was in her bag, and she still could hardly believe how much her life had changed since that night at the small diner near Piazza Navona. Her phone buzzed with a message from Maria, a former colleague, saying the diner had been bought by a Catholic organization that would turn it into a youth center, with spaces for fellowship and spiritual formation. Chiara smiled, knowing that Pope Leo had not only changed her life, but was transforming the entire community, one center at a time. As she walked with Destiny and the other children to get gelato, she listened to their shared dreams. Marco wanted to be a catechist, Sarah dreamed of becoming a doctor, and Julia was already planning to help with charity work. Chiara remembered that she could now help in bigger ways, turning the diner into a symbol of hope. That same day, while reviewing financial reports from the foundation, she noticed something odd. Some donations were recorded for future months. Digging deeper, she found other irregularities. The amounts matched, but the timing didn't. It seemed someone was counting money they hadn't yet received. The vigilance would have to continue. Chiara's stomach tightened. Was this another test, or was something truly wrong this time? She nearly reached for the phone to call Pope Leo, but decided to investigate on her own first. As executive director, she needed to understand everything before sounding the alarm. For the next 2 hours, she dove into reports, spreadsheets, and transactions. Finally, she found it. Someone had been recording pledged donations as if they were already received, artificially inflating the foundation's balance. Destiny appeared at the door in her pajamas, reminding Chiara it was bedtime. Chiara tried to explain she had something important to finish. The girl, concerned, looked at the computer screen and noticed the weight on her mother's face. Chiara pulled her close and spoke about the challenges of helping others, about the courage to face problems even when afraid. She confessed she had found more irregularities, real ones this time. Destiny hugged her tightly, trusting that she would find a way, because fixing things was her gift. Chiara thought a foundation could only stand on truth. Real dreams require real funding, not empty promises. She took a deep breath and decided she would rather lose her job than abandon those children through a mission. The silence that followed was thick until Pope Leo began to laugh. Surprised, Chiara stared at him as he explained she had just passed the real test, the one they hadn't even planned. Confused, she looked around the room, then at him, who invited her to the window. Outside, the children were arriving for morning training in the Vatican gardens, wearing new sneakers and shirts with the logo of the Pope Leo Youth Foundation. The Pope pointed to a girl in a blue shirt, silently practicing her prayers, the daughter of Father Bruno. Curious, Chiara asked about him, beginning to understand that the true test was trusting the mission they were building. Father Bruno, a former colleague at the parish, was known for his strictness because he was fighting to give his daughter a chance, to send her to the Catholic youth summer camp. He sacrificed, worked overtime, and did the impossible to fulfill this dream. Chiara watched the girl, serene in her devotion, never imagining the story behind it. Pope Leo explained that no one knows everyone's full story, and that's why they needed leaders who could see beyond the surface, who could understand the whole picture. The financial irregularities Chiara found weren't fraud, but acts of desperation. The foundation's accountant was stretching the budget to help more children, just like Chiara had stretched food in the canteen to feed more of the hungry. With tears in her eyes, Chiara understood that, even in reporting it, she was showing her commitment to what is right, something that can't be taught, but defines who she is. The meeting was interrupted by Patricia entering with Destiny and Lucia. Destiny was glowing with joy. She had been accepted into the Basilica's youth choir, and Lucia said she might be the youngest singer in history, but she would only sing if other children also had equal chances, like Jenny, Marco, and many others. That spirit reflected the mission of the foundation. Pope Leo then announced the expansion of the Youth Foundation throughout Italy, transforming community centers into youth spaces, and invited Chiara to lead this new phase. She felt the weight and honor of the responsibility, thinking of the families striving to offer a better future. Aware of the importance, she made one condition: Father Bruno must return as coordinator of the first center, and his daughter receive a full scholarship. Pope Leo smiled, having already arranged everything. Second chances were part of what they were building. 6 months later, Chiara inaugurated the first youth center transformed by Pope Leo. The old sign still recalled its roots, but the space now pulsed with life, meetings, and hope, equipped to nurture a new generation of dreams and possibilities. Bruno and his daughter were in the audience, both wearing foundation t-shirts. Beside them, Tomas and his sister Jenny, recently accepted into the school's main choir, celebrated the moment. Marco, now a junior volunteer, was also part of it. Destiny, proud in her youth choir uniform, stood beside her mother at the podium. Chiara spoke to the crowd about dreams that take many forms, whether in the perfection of a musical note that moves the soul or in devoted service to the community. But the greatest dreams, she emphasized, are the ones we help others achieve. She exchanged a glance with Pope Leo, whose simple mitre and silent smile confirmed the depth of the message. Sometimes, small acts of kindness change everything, not just one life, but an entire community, not just for one night, but for generations. It all began because a mother chose kindness over rules, and a pope recognized hidden strength in humility. In truth, there was never a formal test, just life, constantly placing choices between what is easy and what is right. Chiara chose right time and again, with an open heart and an outstretched hand. That was the real victory, the true dream, and the deepest calling, and at that moment, it was only the beginning. Thank you for following this incredible story about kindness, second chances, and basketball dreams. Tell us, where are you watching from? Leave your city and country in the comments. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness always wins. Remember, sometimes the greatest dreams happen while we're busy helping others achieve theirs.